It was the summer of 1912, and I was 26, living in a small village nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains. Life was quiet, but it suited me well. I had recently married Anna, the love of my life, and we were expecting our first child. Our home was modest, a little cabin built by my own hands, surrounded by dense woods. The forest was our sanctuary, a place of peace, until that night. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Anna sent me out to fetch some water from the well. The air was thick with the smell of pine, and the crickets were beginning their nightly chorus. The path to the well was well worn, but tonight, it felt different, darker somehow. I could barely make out the trail in the fading light. As I approached the well, I noticed something strange. The shadows around me seemed to move, to shift and flicker, as if they were alive. I paused, the hair on the back of my neck standing on end. It was then that I heard it, a whisper, soft and faint, like the wind through the trees. I shook my head, trying to clear it. It's just the wind, I told myself. But the whisper came again, this time closer, more insistent. I turned around, and there, standing just at the edge of the trees, was a figure, a shadowy, indistinct shape that seemed to blend with the darkness. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. There was no answer, only the rustling of leaves as the figure moved closer. My heart pounded in my chest as I fumbled for the lantern hanging on the well. I struck a match and lit the lantern, holding it up to cast light on the figure. But when the light touched it, the figure vanished, dissolving into the shadows like smoke. I was alone again, but the fear lingered. I quickly filled the bucket with water and hurried back to the cabin, my mind racing. What had I seen? Was it just my imagination? That night, I couldn't sleep. The whispers seemed to follow me into the cabin, surrounding our little home, seeping through the walls. Anna slept soundly beside me, unaware of the terror I felt. I lay awake, listening to the whispers grow louder, more distinct, until they formed words I could almost understand. The next morning, I went back to the well, determined to confront whatever had haunted me the night before. The sun was high in the sky, and the forest was bright and peaceful, but I felt no comfort. As I approached the well, I noticed something new, a small ancient-looking stone, half buried in the earth beside the path. Curious, I knelt down to examine it. The stone was smooth, worn by time, with strange symbols carved into its surface. As I touched it, a cold shiver ran through me, and I pulled my hand back as if burned. The whispers returned, louder now, echoing in my mind. I left the stone where it was and returned home, but the whispers never left me. They followed me wherever I went, growing louder each night. Anna began to notice the change in me, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her what I had seen, what I had heard. Then, one night, as I lay in bed, I heard a new sound, a voice, clear and cold, calling my name. I sat up, heart racing, and there, at the foot of the bed, stood the shadowy figure from the forest. It was no longer a vague shape. It was a man, tall and thin, his face obscured by darkness. "Come with me," he whispered, his voice sending chills down my spine. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear as the man reached out, his hand cold as ice as it touched my arm. Suddenly, Anna stirred beside me, and the man vanished, leaving only the cold, dark air behind. I jumped out of bed, breathing heavily, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew then that the shadows weren't going to stop. They would follow me, haunt me, until they got what they wanted. The next day, I packed our things. I told Anna we needed to leave, that it wasn't safe here anymore. She didn't understand, but she trusted me. We left the cabin and the village behind, never to return. The whispers faded as we traveled farther away, but I could still feel the shadows lurking at the edges of my mind, waiting. I knew they would come back one day, but for now, we were safe.